All right, my little artists, today we are going to talk about how to draw and shade a bubble using Prismacolors. Now, typically you can use just about any colors you want, but for the sake of sanity purposes and showing you how to do it, we're all going to be using these colors, and all these colors are already on your tables, so make sure that you're using the correct ones. Okay, we've got Parma Violet, White, Aquamarine, True Blue, Pink, and Canary Yellow. And like I said, once you get the hang of how to do it, you are welcome to do any colors you'd like. If you need to, the sharpeners are already placed on your table. This one's mine from home. Yours doesn't look like this, but make sure that you are constantly keeping those bad boys nice and sharp. All right, so let's get started. So we're gonna go ahead and start with our Canary Yellow. Now I'm gonna show you how to do it from, my steps and my perspective. But again, once you get the hang of it, you can kind of do your own thing. Because we are making bubbles, we don't typically want to press too terribly hard because they are a translucent, object. So don't press down super duper hard. Now, I'm kind of working in this upper left corner, and I know it's a circle, there's not really a corner. I am taking the Canary Yellow, my small circles. I'm really not pressing down hard, obviously, but I'm getting even lighter with my pressure as I kind of work my way towards the middle. Now, something that you might have noticed is I left a gap between where this yellow is and the edge of the bubble. Make sure that you do that as well, because that'll really help with that transparent aspect that we're going for. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a bubble. But this is kind of how we are gonna get started. Next, we're gonna take the pink and we're gonna essentially do the exact same thing, except we're gonna work from the bottom right corner area. And you can choose to make it the exact same width. So I made my yellow fairly, wide. If you wanna make your pink fairly wide as well, you can. I'm not gonna make my pink section as wide, just to kind of, have a little bit of counterbalance. But again, everybody's bubble will probably look very different at the end, which is perfectly fine. Watch your pressure. You don't need to be pressing down hard. If you want it to be more pink, you can do, more and more layers. Like I can go and do another layer of pink right here. And it's already looking much brighter. And I'm really not pressing down hard at all. It's just all about that layering process. And again, you want to make sure that you leave a gap between where you're placing these colors and the edge of the bubble. And be mindful about how far in you're going with your bubble. You don't want it to be completely colored in and touching. You're going to be putting more colors, obviously, and highlights and whatnot. So be very, very mindful about how far you're kind of taking your colors in. And if you notice, the yellow and the pink, they're kind of like a little bit of a value scale. So there is a bit more, visible pink or visible yellow, and then it gradually gets lighter. That is on purpose. So, kind of keep that in mind when you were adding these two colors at the beginning. Now this next step is important because this is going to be the highlights. So we have the outer circle, and now we just kind of want to pretend that we have an inner circle. I don't recommend you actually draw it, but just use your imagination. So when you're making the curvature for the highlight, I'm going to go with the curvature of the bubble. Okay. I'm going to do a pretty harsh line right here. And then I'm going to kind of trail it off almost like a comma that you'd see in writing. And then I'm going to do a little baby one underneath. Again, going with the curvature of the bubble. Okay. After I have that, I'm going to take the white and I'm going to do my small circles and I'm going to fill it in. And again, I'm going to do a bit of a value scale. So I'm going to very lightly get lighter, 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 and lighter with my pressure. And then same thing with the little baby beneath it. Okay. Now I am going to do the exact same thing down here in the pink. I'm going to do it diagonally. I'm going to do a big one, and then I'm going to do a mama one. So that is how my highlights ended up turning out. Honestly, I really like how the bubble looks right now. I could low-key just leave it as is, but of course I want to add more colors to make it look more like a bubble. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the true blue and I'm going to add it inside this part of my highlight. And I'm using light pressure, and I'm not coloring the whole thing in, obviously, because we still want it to be a bright highlight. I'm going to kind of add it into this little guy as well over here. And something you might have noticed is that this highlight, it's flat on like the upper part here, and then it's flat along this bottom part. So kind of keep that in mind when you're drawing your highlights as well, if that makes sense. I'm gonna kind of add this like kind of randomly. So technically, if you don't want to add a little bit of blue and everything, you don't have to. I'm just kind of doing it this way to kind of show you. All right. Now, once I have that, I'm gonna take my Parma Violet, and I'm actually gonna get a little bit more fancy with it. I'm gonna add it into my yellow, just kind of like having it blend in a little bit up here. And then I'm gonna do some like streaks. So when I make streaks, I can kind of press down a little bit harder, just so they pop a little bit more on the black. And again, I'm putting in the Parma Violets in these areas. You are welcome to kind of put them wherever your little hearts desire. I'm gonna do a little bit of a random little zigzaggy streak here. And I hope that you notice that, especially with this little guy, I'm going with the curvature of the bubble. I'm not really doing anything straight because it is not a straight object. So you want to keep that in mind when you are also drawing your bubbles, okay? So I'm gonna add a little bit more Parma Violet in some of my areas. I'm actually even gonna go back here because I feel like it, and I'm gonna add it into this highlight. All right. Now, if you can believe it, we're like almost done with our bubbles because there's really not a lot of steps. So I'm going to go back to my pink, and I'm going to press down pretty hard because I really want it to just be the last color I do. And then I'm going to put it right there. Now I'm going to kind of blend it right here. But again, if you just want to do the line, that's cool too. You can go and add more pink in other areas that you want. Again, it's a bubble, so you can kind of add it wherever you want. And it doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Now I'm going to take the aquamarine, and again, I'm just going to add it in some of these highlighted little highlight areas. You can go ahead and with the curvature of the bubble, add a bit of like a pop of color here. Small circles, not really pressing down hard. Kind of blend it into this little area. Super random, super abstract. Okay. Now, one of the last things is I'm going to add some white dots kind of randomly to my bubble. And for the dots, you can press down hard so they pop because you're not really blending them into anything, so you can press down. And I'm actually going to go and add more very, light white highlights kind of along some of these edges. And if you press down really hard, just know you really can't blend much after that. So when you press hard, it is what it is. And I'm going to just add these, honestly, wherever my little heart desires. And I want you to add them wherever your heart desires. So do not feel like it has to look exactly like mine. Okay? And I think I'm done because I really like how this bubble looks. Everyone's is going to look different, and I'm super excited. If you are super duper eager and have more time, you are welcome to do another bubble. And it can be on the back or a smaller one off to the side. If you want to keep it kind of simple, you can do a little star situation, and you can make it look like there's bubbles that popped on the side of your big bubble. And bada bing, bada boom, there you go. You just made a Prismacolor bubble.